I often hear people argue over what's the greatest year in hip hop. Some people say, it's 1993, no, it's 94, it's 95, it's 2000, it's 89. So I got this idea that I'm gonna go through pivotal years in hip hop. So I made it my duty to find out what was the greatest year in hip hop history. And today we're discussing hip hop in 1988. This one was highly requested from the comments. A lot of people mentioned 88. Before I get into the albums that were released that year, it's moments like this that I really get jealous of people who got to actually live with the music when it came out, because I was born in 1990. So everything I hear and knowledge that I've gained is just in retrospect. It's from documentaries, books, talking to my OGs and things of that nature. I'm like never really an envious person or jealous person until it's music related. And then I'm like, oh, you got to live through, like, you witnessed Thriller when it was happening type shit. So that's my only gripe, and that's the only thing that grinds my gears. But just looking back at the year 88 and all the releases, it's a lot of classic albums that dropped this year. It's a lot of great debut albums that dropped this year. So I understand why this was highly requested. So I'm not gonna take up too much of your time. Let's get into it. The first release that we got, January 31st of 1988, hip hop wise, was Too Short. Life is Too Short. I read that this was like Too Short's 4th or 5th album at the time. It went 2 times platinum, which is crazy when you think about a Bay Area artist, independent for the most part. And this is like his 5th album in 88. That's crazy. Like hip hop artists was just starting to, like, Run DMC was like on that 3rd album. You know what I mean? Like, it's crazy to look at that. I remember my friend having this CD and we would listen to it. Like, this was a staple in his car, and that was like 08. So just shows you how classic this album is, that it stood the test of time even for me and my friends. We had the Ghetto Boys release their debut album in February 17th, which wasn't critically acclaimed. It wasn't talked about a lot, panned reviews. But to me, I feel like that was the start of just like, it's the first time we heard Scarface. It's the first time we heard that Houston sound that we would know and grow to love. Biz Markie dropped a week later with his debut album, Going Off, which had the single The Vapors on there. And I just come to realize that Big Daddy Kane wrote majority of that album, which is not a surprise, but it's a cool Easter egg. It's like, wow, because Big Daddy Kane album dropped later in the year, which I'll get to. When I tell you that it was a great or classic album that dropped pretty much every month this year, I'm not bullshitting. So on March 29th, we got the debut album from DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince. He's the DJ, I'm the rapper, which spawned hits Brand New Funk, which is one of the first, not first, but this is I remember them playing that video on MTV Jams because I learned about this Will Smith later. Like, you gotta understand, I grew up on the Jiggy Will Smith. Like, I mean, tell me to recite Getting Jiggy with It, I got it word for word. But I had to learn this in retrospect. So I remember it catching my ear because I never thought of Will Smith rapping that good. You should have seen the people dancing and shaking and moving and grooving. Like that part right there where the beat just drops out and it's just the marriage of the DJ and MC is freaking crazy. If you haven't checked out Brand New Funk, go check it out. But the album also had Parents Just Don't Understand, Nightmare on My Street, which was Elm Street. I think they got sued by the company that they were signed to, actually. It's a weird thing, go look it up. But just a great album. It's probably their greatest contribution album-wise to hip-hop. We had a Grandmaster Flash and the Furious 5 album on The Strength, dropped in April on the 17th. We had Run DMC drop on May 17th with Tougher Than Leather. It had the singles on there, Mary, Mary, why you had that on there, and the classic, Whose House Runs House. Like, this is like their 3rd or 4th album. Run DMC, like, I wish I could live through Run DMC. Like, that had to be just a phenomenal, the first rap superstar. Leave in the comments if there was another one. We got Dougie Fresh dropped his debut album on May 31st, The World's Greatest Entertainer. We have Boogie Down Productions dropped By Any Means Necessary with that classic homage cover to Malcolm X with KRS-One. I believe My Philosophy was on there, Stop the Violence on there. And it was great at that time that we could get hip hop that still had something to say. Like, you'll get the dance in hip hop, you'll get the gangster rap, but then you also get like All right, don't forget about the lessons though. Don't forget where we started from. And the 80s were just crazy. Crack era, like Stop the Violence was needed. You know how crazy it had to be for rappers to make a song called Stop the Violence? June 7th, we got Audio 2, What More Can I Say, which had probably the most sampled song on their top billing. Can you imagine how many times that song has been sampled? Just, I get money, money I got, milk is chillin', what more can I say? Like, every 4 bars, there's a line that has been recycled dozens of times throughout the history of hip hop, which shows you how classic that song is. Imagine being in a party and top billing comes on. What? You got the fresh suit. You got the Adidas shit popping. Like, imagine. This is shit I hate. Got EPMD to drop their debut album, Strictly Business, with Held the Singles. You got The Chill on there. And I've watched that video, and it's a funny Easter egg. If you watch it when the video opens with the refrigerator door opening, you see the string pulling the refrigerator door open. And like, Paris is just like dancing in the background while Eric Sermon is. It's the funniest video ever. Go look at that. But EPMD dropped their debut album, which was a certified classic. JJ Fad dropped their debut album. Sama Lama Duma Lama, you are so much like the shit that Eminem took for, I forget the Eminem record. I think it was Rap God or whatever, but that's where it started. Funny part, Dr. Dre produced them. We got Big Daddy Kane. He dropped his debut album on June 28th. Long Live the Kane, which held the single Ain't No Half Steppin'. That's why videos were so pivotal, because you got to see what you missed. Like nowadays, we do have YouTube and things of that nature, but they're not pushing like old school shit unless it goes viral on TikTok or something. We got a Fat Boys album that year. We got Eric B and Rakim that dropped on July 26th with their follow-up album, Follow the Leader, no pun intended. We got Salt and Pepper second album. Let me say this, Assault with a Deadly Pepper. They had Shake Your Thing on there featuring EU. I'm from DC, so anytime I get to hear that go-go influence, whether it be EU or Herbie using samples on Salt and Pepper or Kid and Play, it's always great to just hear the go-go influence in mainstream. August 8th, we got Straight Outta Compton by NWA, which I don't even have to talk about. You know how classic that album is. West Coast hip hop that changed everything. Cube, Dre, Easy, Ren, Yella, like everything changed after that. I still can see like Ice Cube bursting through the I Got a Dream projection when the video comes on. So like, just a crazy album. We got a 2 Live Crew album that dropped that same month on August 17th. Sir Mix-a-Lot dropped as well that fall. The album had the single My Posse's on Broadway. Eazy-E dropped his debut album also that year, Easy Does It. Ruthless Records had the Easy album, the NWA album, and the JJ Fad album dropping the same year, which is no wonder he went to the bank. Ice-T with the Power album dropped that fall as well with that iconic cover with his girl and his man on it, and then he flip it on the back and he's like holding just a classic cover. We got MC Lyte, who dropped her debut album Light as a Rock. We had a Steady Beat album. We had a Marley Marl album, which is his debut, that had the symphony on there as well. We had Rob Bass and DJ Easy Rock drop It Takes Two. MC Hammer dropped the album that year that went 2 times platinum, Let's Get It Started. And let me ask you here, for all the people who grew up in the 80s and 90s, why y'all hate on Hammer so much? like Hammer was killing. We got an Ultramagnetic album, which not pioneered, but it ushered in like that SP12 sampling style that was just different from everything else at the time, very innovative. The Great Adventures of Slick Rick, are you kidding me? Mona Lisa, Children's Story, Hey Young World. We had the Jungle Brothers debut album, Straight Out the Jungle, which ushered in the Native Tongues. And I saved this one for last because I believe this is the greatest hip-hop album that dropped that year. Public Enemy, It Takes a Nation of Millions to Hold Us Back. Even to this day, the production on there is just so clean with the Bomb Squad did. If you listen to it now, it still sounds new. From Flavor Flav to Professor Griff to Almighty Chuck D. Once again, back is the incredible. Like, his voice is just so demanding. I could just imagine hearing that shit for the first time. It's like, what the fuck is this? Like, because hip hop was still allowed to have, like I said before, something to say. and wasn't scared of the establishment. It was right before the commercialism took over hip hop completely, and we still had that range just to be free and talk about the shit that was going on in the projects. Oh, we could dance to, we could do all the shit that you wanted, but let's remember what the fuck they're doing to us. Like, this crack shit is no joke. Like, the violence that's going on is no joke. The education system is no joke. Like, the places we live is filled with rats and roaches, and the ceilings caving, and it's just no joke. You know what I mean? I don't think we'll ever get an album like that ever again in hip hop history. Like, what do we have on there? We had, and this is their second album. Like, we had Rebel Without a Pause, Bring the Noise, Don't Believe the Hype, Night of the Basshead, Black Still in the House of Chaos. Like, it was so many great pivotal moments on that album that it's just, I had to save it. I had to save it for last. You know what I mean? Speaking of commercialism, I'm not sure how true this is, but the highest charting single, and I know hip hop's not about the charts, but it's just fun to talk about sometimes. The highest charting single at the time was LL Cool J's Going Back to Cali. And I love that song. I love the video as well. I love everything about that song. I love LL. But that song wouldn't even make it the top 20 singles that was released that year. You know what I mean? Like, just critical. Like, it wouldn't even make the list. You know what I mean? I just thought that was a cool Easter egg. Another cool Easter egg I found out was just how many great, as I mentioned before, how many debut albums dropped that year. We had the Ghetto Boys debut album. We had Biz Markie debut album. We had Big Daddy Kane debut album. Slick Rick debut album. We had NWA's first album, Eazy-E's first album, MC Light's first album. We had Ultramagnetic MC's first album. We had Rob Bass' first album, Marley Marl's first album. It was just so many great debut artists and fresh new artists who dropped that year. Did I mention we had a Kid and Play album that year too? Like, it was so many different varieties of hip hop, and probably the last year of hip hop. I'm gonna do 89 too, but this is probably the last year where hip hop was actually hip hop. From the breakers to the DJs to the MCs to the parties to the political stands to even the regions. We'll have the Bay with Too Short. We'll have Los Angeles with NWA and Ice-T. We'll have Texas with Ghetto Boys. We'll have Philly. We'll have New York. We'll have the DC sound. It was so many different regions getting shine that it was just like, and everybody was eating. Can you imagine that tour with Fresh Prince, Salt and Pepper, Kid and Play, Public Enemy, NWA, Big Daddy Kane, Biz Markie, Dougie? Can you imagine that show? Crazy. And with all that being said, this is why 1988 is the greatest year in hip hop history. Leave your comments below. Let me know what's your favorite year. Let me know what albums or songs or artists stood out to you the most in 88. And what were you doing in 88? Like, let me know. Because, you know, like I said, I'm envious of you. So let me know how it really was. How did this shit hit the streets in 88? Wherever region you're from, let me know. As always, though, I'm Tatum. Peace.